Call the meeting to order. And on the roll call, we have clockwise, we have Herb, myself, Tracy, Al, Susan and Lutz, Dennis, Paul, Ray, Cindy, Jane, and Jim. That's for the committee. And then we also have, naturally, we have Jonna, we have Butch, and I think that's it. Yes.
Jack's here too, Mike.
Oh, yes. Okay, that's right. Yes. Hi, Jack.
Hi, Jack.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, Jack.
Hopefully I can see. Okay.
Hi, Jane.
Hello, whoever said that.
Hello, Jane.
Hi.
Hello, everybody.
Okay. Shall we look at some, we have two sets of minutes to do tonight. If we could start with the 15th. I'm sorry, the 5th, January 5th minutes.
I'm gonna
Is
say
there-
we're not there yet.
I know. That's this weekend and we won't be meeting this weekend. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of January 5th?
So moved.
Herb,
Yep.
and a second?
Second.
Jim, second? Okay, discussion?
Mhm.
Hey, Jim.
I would like to state my opinion.
Sure.
I'm Lutz Wallam. I have been seriously ill due to an accident, and I was out for a while, so if I missed something that I should know, please apologize me, and I would like to reiterate what I said, but maybe 2 years ago. I think that the minutes ought to be written a little more understandably because they are written well now and much better than the last time when I read them. But I think that there is not enough background information of what the meeting is like that is being recorded. And I think that it leads to misunderstandings. And I would like to offer my help to the person that writes the minutes now. But I want to give you my background. I was trained at Mercedes-Benz in Stuttgart, Germany, immigrated to the United States 45 years ago, and speak 3.5 languages. And I was the treasurer of a hospital chain in Massachusetts, Northeast Health Systems, for 17 years, and the treasurer for 25 years. No, a member of the budget, no, a member of the board for 25 years. So I have had some experience reading minutes, and I would be happy to help the person that does it now. I therefore will abstain from approving the minutes because I think they should be changed a little.
Okay, thank you. How does everybody feel about the minutes? There are many opinions and of ways that minutes should be done. I know that sometimes you can get into a 10-page document that is the other extreme.
All right.
So,
I'm certainly guilty of that.
well, you're right. Well, it's not easy. You know, I would be that. Left to my own devices, I would put every word that I remembered into a document. But
Sometimes like I just read through one set, I think the 5th minutes, and like it was like the 3rd paragraph down. You had to really try and remember what was being said at the meeting to understand what we were talking about a little bit. So I don't know, maybe it needs a little bit more filler or continuity somehow. It's just multiple sentences that don't necessarily flow. You know?
Hey, Mike, aren't these, are these minutes still available on Google? Is it Google or?
yes,
Yeah, so I mean, is it really, what we have is probably good enough, and if someone wanted more clarification, could they not just go to Google Docs and kind of get in and see exactly what was said? That way there they could understand if they really wanted to know.
Oh, you mean YouTube?
YouTube, I'm sorry.
Okay, because I was gonna say that they'll look like that, but.
No, I'm sorry, I meant, yeah, YouTube. I mean, because when I look at selectmen's meetings or planning board, and if you really want to get the gist of what they're saying, sometimes you just go back to that YouTube and look at it, and you can watch it and you can say, oh yeah, that's what we said. And it's kind of verbatim that way. So just an option.
I have. one
yes, go
thought-
ahead, Jane.
One thought I had about when I was reading them, they could use a little bit more detail regarding what happened. However, I would, because they're official legal documents that we hand out to people to get an understanding of what's going on. So then again, maybe Butch can chime in on this as far as legalese and what how much you need to keep in it. I don't know. I've taken notes, but never under, municipality where they're going to be critiqued very often. So maybe Tracy could use some help with that piece of it to understand what should be in it and what, we can't put everything in it, but what should it be detailed, but not too much detail? I don't know. Butch, what do you think?
I think minutes have to be a summary of what you discussed. I think Paul said it well. We've gone the extra step. You can listen to every word that was spoken quite easily if you really dig in, and these are stored in perpetuity. That's the program we have. So minutes can be as detailed like planning board. Planning board rules require quite in-depth as best you can, even though we have the backup. Most committees, it's not. So you can, I'm not really answering, but you can go anywhere you want with them. For something like the budget committee, you have your documentation, and the figures are updated every week if necessary. And then you have the words that were spoken recorded electronically. So, that's, I'll just have that input, but obviously you as a board can determine where you want that. You're in a little different situation than say, I'll use a planning board, for instance, or even selectmen making decisions. But planning board's the most glaring because every word is, as you know, in some of the cases that have just recently gone before planning board, every word or innuendo is taken to task depending on who the applicant is and what's going on. So it's a little different situation, if that makes sense. I don't want to ramble, but
Yeah, because I think they can be as little as who's there,
Yep.
and the motions, pretty much.
Right.
Yep. You have to record your decisions. That's correct, Susan. I mean, that's a given that all meetings have to the topic and what if any decision was made. In between, you can have as much detail. And I think with the recordings that we're currently doing, you can't get much better detail because you can listen to it was said. So that's,
How does everybody feel about the selectmen's minutes? When you read them, do you think there's enough detail in there? Does that give you a good idea of what's of what happened at the meeting? 'Cause I'm
I
just
go
saying,
watch, I
Go
go
ahead.
watch
I
the
would think
video.
it's a good overview.
because I'm just saying is just give us something to use as a template to sort of streamline it. Is if you think the selectmen's minutes are good, then, and we have this, then it kind of meshes. Susan's right, is you actually minutes really only have to list what was done at the meeting, not really anything of what was said, but I find them very helpful, and I think everybody else does too. And everybody's gonna have a different opinion on how much detail should be in there. So how about if for this week, going into, we look at, take a look at the selectmen's meetings when you have a chance, Tracy, and see if maybe you can sort of match those.
you can work with Jane. I will say, if you like the selectmen's minute, in the last year, several meetings of the select board minutes have ended up in actual legal cases, and they've been more than adequate, and it's directed folks to the recording of the meeting so that both parties can review exactly what was said, and it's worked out pretty well. So
Okay,
Tracy, yeah, what I like,
go ahead, Jane.
what you do, and I think the select board minutes aren't as, I like that you say verbatim what people say. There's a flair in the other ones a little bit. So I do like that piece of it very much.
Do we retain the tapes?
I think
Yes,
the,
I spend 3 hours at least every meeting going back over. I review the meeting and I'm typing them as I'm reviewing the meeting.
Yeah. Do we just,
And last
think if-
year, I was told I was typing too much, so this year I cut back. So
Tracy, I think you do a great job.
I think it's a good job.
I think you do a great job, Tracy.
I
yes,
do too. I do too. I think in my experience with minutes, again, you're supposed to capture, you don't have to just capture every detail of the discussion. You have to capture decisions and the context around what those decisions were made. And Paul is absolutely right. We have the recordings. If people want more detail with that, and I've done that even for the select board meetings. I've read the minutes and then I've gone back because something may not have been exactly clear to me, and I got the answer from the recording. I think Tracy does a great job.
yes, I do as well.
Great job.
I don't really want anybody to assume that the things that are in there are verbatim.
Right.
Because when you talk about the legalities and all that, it's going to be somebody's interpretation. The only thing that's verbatim would be on the video. So we'll continue to work through it. Lutz, do you have access to YouTube?
Burkable, does Lutz have access to the minutes?
YouTube, yes.
To YouTube?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, if I set it up for him.
Yeah, I understand. I don't want to say that that's what
God
to
bless
do,
you.
but maybe in a combination of this, the two things will give sort of a context of what did happen at the meeting. So they're always a work in progress, and there's as many opinions on what minutes should have as there are words in the minutes. So we'll keep it going. And but for tonight, we have these in front of us. So are there any further discussion on the minutes from January 5th? Everybody's name is spelled right? Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes from January 5th, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we have as an abstention. Okay, the minutes from January 5th are approved. Thank you. Minutes from January 7th.
So moved.
Okay, Herb made a motion to approve the minutes from January 7th. Is there a second?
Second by Jack.
Ray, second. Thank you. Okay, discussion?
Jane has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jane, yes, go ahead.
You're muted, Jane.
You're muted.
It's funny how everybody screams when you're muted because they don't think you can hear or something.
You're right.
And they say it 100 times. It's like, I'm not that deaf yet. Okay. On line 23, it says North Country Transit you should add is no longer covering, just a couple grammatical things. Tracy, no big deal. On line 23, add is no longer covering the Lincoln Woodstock, or you just put no longer covers. 56, it says, Jane states there are 35 new students at Linwood. People, I would like to change that if I could with permission from the board. People are requested to stay here for 6 months to be a resident. And that's what I said. They're requested or expected, I should say, they are expected to stay here for 6 months to be a resident.
There's no law about that, Butch?
That's the law.
They're required.
Is that,
That
Is
is,
there a law?
that is the law. Yeah,
That
that's,
is the law.
now is anybody enforcing it? Who knows? But
No.
that is the law.
Right.
Yeah,
How do you prove it?
So,
right. Live free or die state. Okay, 78, Paul asked Nate you have do instead of to clarify why the contracted services were underspent by $5,800 on line 78. And I think that's it. Let's see. That's it. Thank you, Tracy, very much. I appreciate you doing this. Believe me, I would not do that minutes. So thank you.
Further discussion on the minutes from January 7th?
One abstention.
No, we haven't voted, we haven't asked for a vote.
As hearing no further discussion, all in favor of approving the minutes from January 7th, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Opposed? None? Abstain? Lutz. Okay. The minutes are approved from January 7th. Thank you. Okay, we left off with number 16 sewer last week. And so we'll start with number 20 welfare this week. We'll line up here.
Yeah.
Okay, welfare has a funded amount of 6,700 from last year. The recommended by the selectmen is 10,000 this year. And
Right.
that's an increase.
Right.
Yes, Dennis.
I have a question. What is the rent for?
the rent is for anyone who has a problem paying for their rent.
Oh, I see.
They come in and ask for assistance. And I want to say that this was, since January 1, there's been a noticeable uptick in requests. So her prediction, well, she certainly hasn't spent that much yet, but it's given the state of the world, we did see an uptick. There's been a short relief with the $600 stipend checks, but that's maybe 1 month's rent. And so we're not thinking that it's going to be something that's going to sustain. So luckily we don't have, she's very good at not shuffling, referring folks to other programs, but we're pretty sure that we'll be closer if we bump it up the amount she's asking.
So a follow-up to that, that's a projection. It's not what you have.
That is an absolute projection based on her experience and to some extent mine, but she's much better than I am. It's a place that you can, like with legal, we can put it wherever you want, but by law, we have to spend whatever we have to spend. So, and this, we think this will be closer to the mark. And that's what the board, when we presented to the board, they felt that was a fair mark too. So,
Got it. Thank you.
yeah.
Tracy?
Can I ask, it says 2580 funded. How much was actually spent?
And last year.
400.
Do you have that?
It's 400.
Yeah, we did well last year. She's
Just a second.
very.
We have
Jane,
only-
We're also getting monthly payments.
Jane, we have only spent 400 on the rental assistance this year. Jane has directed people to other avenues or other resources. But she was afraid because a lot of the benefits did end as of December 31st. So that's why she increased it, because she felt there would be much more need this year than last.
The benefits didn't, the only benefit that lapsed was 600 instead of 1,200, right? The rest of them, the unemployment benefits were continued. The government also did the rent protection program, so you couldn't be kicked out. So, I mean, I'm not sure we need to increase it this much. We say every year, and as Butch said, you know, we're going to pay whatever it is. And every year we kind of look at it and say, well, what's that number? And then we come in with, Jane does such a great job at it that she comes in way under what she projects. So I'm just not, I mean, if we had to pick a number and stick to it, then it might be a little more prevalent, but the fact that we're able to put a number a little lower and still, if we need it, we can use it. It can come out of surplus income anywhere. I mean, and it's not that we're going to refuse anybody by lowering this number. They're still going to get their help.
that Paul's right. I mean, that's it. We're just, you know, budgeting wise, we try to predict, but, you know, so Paul's not wrong.
Any other discussion?
Mike, Jack, I had my hand up.
Yes.
I just want to follow up what John has said. Jane does a very good job of vetting these individuals that come to her. She does refer them to other social service agencies, not only in our community, but outside, that can lend a hand. And like Paul said, you know, the eviction moratorium, that is helping people. And the fact it sounds like the next legislative session on the national level is going to raise that $600 stipend to $2,000.
Hey, Mary?
Yes, sir.
One more comment. They are, and I agree with Jack, they're gonna raise it, and I don't know for how many more weeks. But I just came out of another board meeting for one of my properties, and even at 1 million vaccines a day, this is gonna go on for another year. So I'm very doubtful we're gonna be taking our mask off in 3 months, 2 months, 6 months. It's going to be quite a while. So, and I'm not sure what's going to happen to people after that. It's not going to be pretty unless they make the vaccine get into the arms of people faster than what it is now, and it's not even that 1 million needles a day. So. I don't know. I mean, from $4,500 down to what? $2,500, it wouldn't make too much of a difference. If it doesn't get spent, it doesn't get spent.
Further discussion? Jane?
No. I agree with Dennis regarding it. I think it's better to have it than not, because based on what's going to occur and also based on having it available for families. And you're talking about 600 through the DRA, I mean, for taxes purposes, is that what you're talking about, Dennis?
Yes.
Oh, tax purposes. So that's assuming people work. The people that come in may not even work
Sure.
and get, yeah, so therein lies the problem. Yeah, so I would keep it the same.
You know, and I had a quick conversation with Jane, and the last couple of inquiries, I believe she told me, were hospitality worker inquiries. As most of you know, the hospitality industry's taken, the worker force is taking the hit. And if this does drag out for a year more, then those folks are, even if they want to work, they're finding a hard place to work. So I don't know. It really is a budgeting thing. I mean, we're gonna take care of them. We are, and so this is just a budgeting thing. That's all.
I'd be more concerned about legal than welfare.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dennis, I agree.
Definitely.
I just like to say that I think that we as a budget committee ought to be looking at how we represent this to the taxpayers as well. So when they, and there's people who see this information and they look at what was spent and what's being requested. And, you know, it's not just the budget committee that looks at that. There's other people who obviously look at that. So I think we want to represent a reasonable request, especially in light of recent expenditures. And, you know, especially in this one where we can go over it and where we are definitely not going to refuse anybody who needs anything. It's not like we're going to refuse anybody. So if we reduced it to 0, we still have the obligation to help these people out, and we would do that. But I think when other people look at the budgets, and as taxpayers who are paying for the taxes in town, we should represent a reasonable budget and show the reasons why. And just to say we think it's going to go up when for the past 2 years it hasn't, to me doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Jane, earlier when you said you think you should leave it as it is, you mean the Board of Selectmen's recommendation, right?
Well, whatever is in front of us now, yes.
Okay, not last year's funded, but this year's.
This year's funding
Recommended.
increase, yes.
Right. Do I hear a motion?
We're going to vote on budgets as we go.
We're not voting.
No, we're not voting on that, but are you making a motion to cut it? Is someone?
I'm not going to make any motions, and I thought the way we did this was to go through all the budgets and then come back and vote.
Right, it's like last week's with the increase that Jack had put out up to 11.5. We can do anything we want to in this with changing anything. It's just a matter, but yes, we would do it by a vote, and then we're going to vote on the whole budget later on. But for now, we're just kind of, that's why I ask if no one wants to make a motion, then it's just kind of conversation.
Well, I think we should go through the whole budget. I mean, and then it might change. If some changes are made throughout the budget, then, you know, you might not want to make this change. But I think, you know, it would be nice to go through the whole budget and see what if any changes happen or don't happen.
Well, we can make changes all the way through. We're gonna kind of run into this each time we run into a budget. So it's not like we don't want to make any motions between now and the end of the session. So.
Well, if no one, I mean, if you want, if you're willing to accept the motion, I'll make a motion that we leave it at 2020's funded of $6,700.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Jim, second. Okay. Further discussion? Okay, all in favor of leaving the welfare budget at the 2020 level? Please raise your right hand and say aye.
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 I have Susan, I have Paul, and I have Jim, and I have Lutz. That is 4 in favor. All those opposed, please raise your right hand and say aye.
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 Herb, Tracy, Al, Dennis, Ray, Cindy, and Jane. So that's 1, 2,
And Jack.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 8. Did I? Yes.
Did you vote? Mike?
No.
Okay.
That's 4 in favor of the motion and 8 against. The motion does not pass this time. Okay, if we want to go to the, are we finished with welfare?
I think.
And so Paul, in addition to that, just, so you know, this can come back up at any time you'd like.
That's it. It doesn't need to. It failed. So it doesn't need to. That's why I put it out there.
Well, no, well, I'm putting it as far as a process, just because it did not pass at this moment doesn't mean that it can't come up. And it can't,
Okay.
different information, different things that we're doing, it can come back up again. Number 1, executive. Last year was funded at 453,614, and this year it's at 483,447, a 6% increase. Discussion on the executive budget?
Ray,
Yes, Ray, go right ahead.
there's an item here for volunteer night, the holiday get together for $5,000. Was that canceled last year?
Yes,
You
it
just
was.
uninvited, Ray.
Oh, it was canceled because of COVID, Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it,
And we,
it wasn't spent. It still sits there, but it wasn't spent.
not all of it. We did do the board, we did do gift cards to staff, and we used it out of that account. I
Oh,
can't
that's good. Yeah.
put the number in front of me. Other than that,
Hey, Mike, I
party
think,
was-
I think it was,
1 second. Butch, were you finished?
yes.
Okay, go ahead, Dennis.
I gotta make a correction. I think the holiday party was there because it was at the mall, Village Shops. It was in my conference center. That was December.
December of, yeah,
Now,
that's
This year was canceled.
2020 was. Is that what you were asking? You asked-
Yeah, so the money spent December of 2019 was allocated already. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the-
Yes.
And there was no money spent this year. Okay, sorry.
that's right.
Sorry,
I,
Cindy?
I had a question on materials and supplies.
Mhm.
Last year, 16,300 was budgeted. We want to up it to 16,000, up to 18,000, but we only spent about half of it last year. So why are we increasing it when we didn't spend the full amount last year?
Johnny, can you help me out here? I think the,
We only spent $8,911.31 last year.
I know we still do have some expenses that will be coming out of there. I am not sure how much. The reason we increased postage was because postage is going up. We don't ever know how much we're going to spend. It is truly just an estimate. And the postage all comes out of the executive budget for the whole town. And we were told by our town clerk, she has to do an election purge that is going to be more money as well. So that's why we increased there. That was the only increase that we made, and that was based on those reasons.
Yes, that's correct. And I forgot the purge is every, I believe it's 10 years.
Yeah,
Correct. She has to, every registered voter who has not voted in 10 years has to be notified by certified mail that they'll no longer be on the registered voter list in the town of Lincoln. And I'm told that there's more than we would think. I don't know what that number is, but that is an increase.
Right.
And
I understand the postage, but the fact that we only, you know, and do we know what more is coming in? Or do we have a history on this? What did we spend in 2019?
I don't have that on me at home. I can let you know how much we did in 2019.
Because that's a difference of $8,000 just.
Don't have
That too. I mean, there's a possibility there for additional savings if we know why that is so far under.
Well, my guess, but we'll get the detail for you and get that to you.
Okay.
We'll break it out.
Okay,
Um,
Ray?
I have a question. I noticed the entry on engineering. Is that in addition to engineering that is done for planning and public works and so forth?
We put an engineering line in executive, yes,
Yes.
because there's engineering that planning didn't want, that either the Board of Selectmen or us, we need done on the executive level. So we're trying to split it out so that we have showing, we can show what department, if you will, or what section of government needed some engineering advice.
You got some flexibility for administration?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
yes.
Paul?
Yeah, you can save your $1,000 iPad. I don't need one.
Do you want to talk about that now, Paul?
Well, it's
I'm
on the
sorry.
budget. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, well, that's fine. Let's talk about it. I need to know, if I could, Chair, I didn't mean to overstep your boundary there.
That's all right. I'm fine. Go ahead.
Are you okay? You okay? You okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
it really, it was
I need-
funny. It didn't bother me. I just looking, go ahead. I'm watching you and Paul together
hold
having a
on.
conversation.
I need to know how many people from the budget committee would like a iPad, and they're $1,000 each, as it says, with 6,000 annually, each $15,000. To my knowledge, I emailed OJ because we're busy. I didn't ask him last night at the select board meeting regarding the number 5. It could be including those maybe that the budget committee wanted. So I need to know how many of you would like an iPad.
Tracy? Susan?
Okay,
I'll take one.
Tracy, Susan, who else?
Ray?
Jack,
And Jack,
Jack?
Ray, Jack. Okay,
Mike, I have a question, or Jane, I have a question, or Paul, I have a question.
Okay.
I'll be
Paul,
Paul.
you have an iPad. Is the iPad work with what, in conjunction with the town? Since I'm sitting here on a laptop, but I also have an iPad too. So,
Right.
if it's loaded with our software, Dennis, so that we got the security. And that's why your personal iPad, we'd have to get you download the software so that you could securely work within our system.
and that could be done, and the town would save $1,000. Same with Paul.
It could, as long as you're willing, just understand that not that the budget committee's probably gonna get, I shouldn't say that, but it can be hauled, if you're subpoenaed to court,
Sure.
anything transpires here, then everything on your iPad is subject to public scrutiny.
Public scrutiny.
Okay.
Isn't
Yeah,
that true?
yeah.
But that's
You're-
also
you're
true
that
for
way
our
now, Dennis.
PCs.
Which I would not want.
Butch, isn't that also true for our home computers, for our PCs?
That's what I'm trying to say, that,
Yeah, it doesn't make any difference whether it's on an iPad or your PC.
or your
It's
phone,
true for both.
or your phones, and does it
Yeah.
happen a lot? No, it doesn't. But if it does, there's nothing the town can do about it. You're gonna turn it over, and you're gonna fight to have people look at just your town business, but they're entitled, and so we just put it out there. It's up to you folks. I mean,
Okay, then I want an iPad too.
2 years in a row, this group
Yeah,
started it, actually. I think Jack started wanting iPads. So this year we put them in, and we're finding now that, nothing is, it's expensive. There's no doubt about it, but you're
Very
doing
expensive.
work that, I wouldn't want, not to get anything to hide, but most people don't want their personal computers in a courtroom,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jane.
want to
Thank
take
you,
a recount, Jane?
It's to kind of. No. No, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so far.
Be easier to ask
Include
ones that
me.
don't.
Include me, Jane.
Yeah.
I think I'm the
and
only one that doesn't.
Yeah, I have you.
Um,
I have Cindy, Tracy, Susan, Ray, and Jack. Anyone else?
Mike,
You're all good? I
No,
just
you-
wanted to
you-
add to that
I
piece.
had said yes.
Yes,
Yeah, I said yes too.
Dennis wants ones also.
Right.
What I wanted to say was, it's great that you'll get your own laptop. However, it isn't, I don't see budget committee as getting things that aren't already public. The select board, we have them because we get lots of, insurance stuff and lawsuits and that kind of thing. That's when you have to be really leery of using something different. I'm not saying that what they're saying is wrong, but I don't want to catastrophize it either. I don't know what else you would get as far as budgets are concerned on your laptop. Do you, Butch? The
Once-
agenda, everything would be public as far as I know, but maybe not. So,
The public
yeah. it would be
public
public.
portion that
Yeah.
folks like yourselves should worry about is your personal stuff becomes public.
Hmm.
Oh, but I don't.
And the
can't see
thing
that
is, as you
easy.
know, Jane, a person doesn't need a reason. They don't even need a reason to want to look at any of your laptops. They don't have to tell a reason. They just say under 91A, we want to look at it. And we want to look at all of it. And so that's the,
I don't see that. Okay,
I think,
all
They
right.
gotta do a little more than that. They gotta get in your house to get it.
well, town property, you got to turn it over.
They might have a problem there.
We would tell you to
Oh,
turn
but-
it over. The
Um,
towns, it's the town's laptop, and we would just turn it over to whoever, us,
Right.
me, we'd hand it to the attorneys, and they look at it. I mean, there's attorneys sitting in this meeting, and they know what I'm talking about. That's how it goes. And
It's a serious issue.
it is. And
No, I
Yeah.
agree that it is. I'm just saying it would hold public documents. I'm saying that there shouldn't be anything in there that has to do with legal.
well, there'll be emails, you'd have
That's all I'm
email
saying, Butch.
capability.
I
You'd
don't
have email
catastrophize.
capability, you'd have,
Yeah,
so you could send emails
yeah,
to doing town business, and your words could be taken to task. I mean, even though it's just the budget, you say just the budget committee, but
Right.
it's words, and your words could be important. And somebody only has to say, I just want to see what his or her words were. I don't know what she said.
okay.
Yep, so.
Hey, Mike, Ray has been up.
One second, Jack. Ray, you had your hand up there before.
No,
Right.
I think it was
You're also-
covered. Thank you,
Okay.
it was covered.
Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, no. If the iPads are used for the purpose for which they're purchased, then there shouldn't be any issues regarding lawsuits or the need to bring them to court or what have you. They should all have the same information. So one is the same as all. Again, I've got on my phone now and I've got my iPad beside me. Rather than download 8 pages of expenditures tonight, you know, as we go along, I'm looking at the iPad. The iPad will save time, it will save paper. And then if there are changes, they can be immediately put through in, you know, a controlled environment so that everybody gets them. It's not at that point a public document until the budget committee releases it.
Is his hand down yet?
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I'd just like to make sure that for those of us who don't want iPads, if we want paper copies, that we can get them.
You will. No.
Can't guarantee that one.
Yep.
Paper's on its way out.
I couldn't hear you. You were breaking up.
That's the whole thing that's at issue. And, or not, I shouldn't say at issue, but that is the problem, is there's no sense in getting them unless people are gonna work on them. And when you have half and half, that means you're still moving papers around, and it just, you're got half paper, but the paper didn't get there at the same time that the digital did. The digital got there in advance. So right now, what I'm looking at it is, I'm wondering how everybody is taking to working with Google Drive. I'm just curious, how is everybody feeling with working with Google Drive?
I like it.
I think it's working
well.
Okay.
Okay, because in essence, that's what your iPad would be, is
Right.
Google Drive. Because what happens is Jonna just uploads what she wants for the budget committee into that server at the town, and then we have access to it, you know, right away.
We get, Mike, we get very little paper. If you take a look, the biggest budget we probably get a whole bunch of paper for is the health agency ones, if you print all of that out. The rest of it is basically the budget request. I mean, there are some supplemental pages that get put in. There may be some actual expenditure papers, 3 or 4 pages of that to get put in. So for the budget committee, it's truly not a ton of paper that gets changed all the time. So to me, personally, it's a waste. I think for the amount of paper that you actually really use.
You know, we did think about.
I like having mine so that every year I can go back and I don't have to use the Google documents or the documents. I don't have to find them on my computer. I can go back and get the hard copies, and my notes are all on there, you know? So for me, don't bother, but I do want the paper copies.
1 second, Tracy?
Why don't, to save copies, to save the printing, those of us that get the iPads don't get paper copies. And if we want to print some sheets at home ourselves, I'm assuming from the iPad, we could print at home what we need, what we feel we want for paper. And then that takes that out of the equation. We're not wasting paper from the town and we're just getting it on the iPad.
One of the other alternatives you could do is, if I might not want to print everything, as I sometimes do on the planning board, but you may want to print some of the things. So I don't know if there's, you know, maybe there's a way you can get reimbursed for printing what little documents you print. I mean, I don't know what it is. I mean, it would still save some paper, but I do like the hard copies. But I do use computers as well, you know, when I think I can find it. But sometimes I'm not that technology savvy and I have a hard time finding it. But I know when I've got it on a paper copy, I can find it. I don't have to search for it on the computer and say, oh shit, where is it? And, you know, go into the Google Docs or go into an email, you know, I can find it on a piece of hard copy. And for me, that's easier.
Butch, you had your hand up?
No, I was
My
just-
hand's up, Mike.
Whoops, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Mike,
go ahead, Jack.
my hand's
Go
up.
ahead. Go ahead.
You know, is Jonna still on the call?
Yes. She's
Um,
muted.
Yes.
Okay.
Jonna, how much time do you think last year that you personally spent collating, copying, making note and getting the documents out? Could you guesstimate the time that you spent or staff time spent on getting that material out to us in a printed form?
I don't know, because I don't do it all in 1 week or 1 day.
No.
It's could be an hour here or an afternoon here or 2 hours there, or so it's really hard to tell. I thought the idea of getting the iPads was so we were gonna go away from paper.
Right.
And
Yes.
so that everybody had it all on once and that we didn't do the paper. I thought we
Well,
were
that's-
trying to go paperless.
Yes, that is it. That's why I throw this up is when you go half and half, and now it's going through different channels and people are getting it in different ways, it becomes a bit more confusing. But the reason I ask about and we may not have to decide this at the moment. The reason I'm asking about the Google Drive is it's a bit of a skill that you learn that, and I'm not fantastic with it by any means, but I made Jonna and I made Tracy, editors of it. So what happens is instead of getting emails, they just put the stuff up there. Like instead of getting changes on the budget and different pages now for the budget, my guess would be that Jonna, when any changes are made in the budget, she just uploads a new budget, comes right out of her system and right up into the computer, and it's already adjusted. So that's part of the thing. That making the changes in the pages was always seemed to be kind of a pain. But if you like and you think that it works for the using the Google Drive, you might think a little bit better of the iPad by the end of the season. And like myself, I just want to print out what I want to print out. And tonight I couldn't get my printer to work. So it's going to happen. Technology beat the snot out of me this afternoon. But I don't know. It's hard to say it's hard to move away from digital just because you're getting dragged into it. So throw that in, but we don't have to decide anything now unless somebody wants to make a motion. John, one second, Jonna did have her hand up.
I'm just curious, how many of you did pick up your hard packets for the complete budget? Did everybody?
I did not,
I did.
I did.
I did.
because I have mine. So I got the digital version.
So pretty much everybody wanted the hard copy.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
I
and
only
so
wanted
that-
a hard copy because we weren't using the drive yet.
Right, true.
And that is the thing of it. If you still want to get printed copies from the town, then you don't need an iPad, or we shouldn't get an iPad.
Yeah,
But
we were asked if we wanted copies before we were doing this drive thing. That's why I went and got one at the town.
But if you are okay with printing out your own stuff, then you can find benefit in the iPad. And just me personally is I'll get it and it's there and it's more than shuffling papers and then I'll print out what I want. And so, but that's just me. Jane? You're muted, Jane. Jane, you're muted.
Herb has his hand up, Mike.
I said it quietly. Go ahead, Jane.
Good one. I think Herb had, yeah. I just want to get a total count, six iPads at $1,200 a piece, plus 1,000 for training. Is that 1,000 per person, Butch? That would be 13,200 instead of 15,000.
Well, no, and again, those
What?
numbers,
No.
that's why, one second, Jane, is like, let's not go with this count at the moment. That's a very loose thing. We're not really deciding or choosing. It's kind of internal at the moment. And the dollar amounts that you're talking there, all it says in there is $1,000 each and then 3,000 annual for the software.
Right. I have 12,000 for the laptops written down at our last discussion at the board meeting. Select board,
Right, and then they had
and 1,000 for
3,000.
training.
And that's sort of a challenge because the two for the planning board were going to be $7,000 with training and everything. So I'm not, they're not hard figures, I don't think yet.
Okay.
Herb?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say that I support what Paul said. I'm old school. I like the hard copies, and like Paul, I make a lot of notes as we go along. So, I mean, I would I'd stick with the hard copies.
Okay. Tracy went to sleep. No, she didn't. Further discussion on that at the moment? Nope. Okay, further discussion on the executive budget? Butch, you should put computers in there every year.
Well,
It takes everybody's attention away from the rest of the executive budget.
well, I know. I just, I think I'm certainly not technology savvy either, but I'm getting better and it does make life easier once you do it, but I got it, and I did think about, and I mentioned to the board, maybe we could share between boards, obviously you guys, but you did meet all year this year. It wasn't just a 2-month stint. So, between boards, sharing iPads, but like the planning board, that wouldn't make sense at all.
Right.
So we got away from that. We tried to figure ways we could, have a supply of iPads that we could issue out for periods of time when these boards meet, but it's either you want one or you don't want one. I think you guys have discussed it to ad nauseum, so that's it. Whatever you decide.
I could take care of 3 people with one iPad.
What do you mean?
Huh? Me, Dad, and Joe.
Oh, yeah,
Theoretically.
yes. Paul?
Hey, Butch, can you tell me about the telephone and the executive budget? Budgeted $9,536. Still had 3,300 left. And this year the telephone was, you're still asking for the same amount.
Yeah, we're switching off, whoops, am I on? Yeah. And now John can chime in here, but we're switching up phone. So we're going to fiber optic. And at the same time, we're bundling the phone system. So we're leaving Mettel, which is our old phone system. And we're going to be all bundled in with fiber optic.
So will the cost be the same this year?
Pretty much the same, a little bit more expensive. I don't have it in front of me, Paul, but so it's all in the phone change. And actually the fiber optic has finally been run into the building, but we haven't switched the phones yet. And if Jonna knows anything more, I'm looking at her nod. You're muted, so you can't hear you, but I think I've covered it. That's the difference. So we still need the same, pretty close. We went with pretty much the same number, but we didn't expend because we switched out the internet and stuff before the phone system. So if that makes sense, we were able to make that switch over.
So you need the same number. So I guess that's my answer.
That's the answer. So we put back in the same number, Paul. Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep. Sounds like a rescue helicopter going overhead.
It was
Well,
earlier too.
Was there?
Yes, there was a service. I don't know if it's Air Force or, but it was.
Blackhawk, they probably have a rescue, so, yeah.
It was a Black Hawk. That's what it was. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's Trump. He's coming to visit.
Ooh.
Did anybody happen to see the video of the C-130s going through the notch?
Yeah,
There was-
I didn't see I saw them go over and I got a question if they were at a legal height.
I don't know.
There are.
It's a big aircraft to fly up that valley.
If
They
you
give the
want
trees
to,
haircuts.
They've done that more than once.
yeah.
Yeah.
There was a guy
Okay.
that was on Bald Knob or Artist Bluff there that took a video of all 4 of them
Ooh,
came up through, and I thought, wow, I have not seen them that low.
Yeah.
But,
I
that's some
bet
good
they were
flying.
all National Guard and they were all skiers, probably taking a look.
The executive budget is any further discussion? so I'll just reiterate on all of this is we can bring any of this stuff up at any time throughout the meeting. Throughout the meetings, throughout the season. What we did away with a number of years ago was voting on the budget, the whole budget right now, and then voting on it again, and then again, the third time. Because one of the questions, and I'll let Jack address this if he wants to, because that was still out there. We didn't vote last week on the, Jack retracted his motion to increase the revenue budget to $11,500, only because we weren't quite sure how everything was going. But that can be brought up at any time. I don't know if you want to bring that up, Jack, or Butch, I think you were maybe going to get some information on that. But it doesn't have to be right now either.
Yeah, I thought we had agreed on 11.5, so I'll have to get refreshed on what I was supposed to be looking for.
All right, yep, no problem.
I thought it was at 11.5, quite frankly, but
No, that came out and then we retracted it. The motion, Paul retracted a second and Jack retracted the motion. So it's still up for discussion whenever we want to discuss it.
okay.
So you did not increase the revenues in the planning then?
No, we do not.
No.
Okay,
Yeah, John, I thought they had, that's why I had to change it. but-
okay. I'll just make sure it gets changed back unless it gets changed again.
Okay,
Trying to find it in the minutes.
Thanks, Tracy.
I don't think it is.
yeah. No, I think it is in there.
Oh, good.
Look at the video.
Mhm.
Okay, hearing no further discussion on the executive budget. Shall we move on to town hall, number 7?
Hey, Butch, are we gonna be using the, and what is the video CCTV? Is that the old stuff or is that all new stuff?
The YouTube is all new stuff. You saw where we had it budgeted last year. Now it's blank this year. The system we were originally using, we discontinued that. So those numbers were for that. So that's why it's blank.
So the $11,332 underneath the video CCTV is for for what we're using now?
So-
No,
No,
the 11, Paul, that's the third year in the video surveillance camera system for PD and town hall.
the
that's-
parking lots, the
That's all surveillance.
Correct.
right.
So that's the third year of the contract?
Yep.
Yes,
We've been 2 years. This is the third.
the
And
third and final.
So that pays for all the equipment and the
Yeah.
monitoring and all that? Okay,
Yeah.
Yes.
all right, thank you. And the electricity went up by $2,000. I would have thought with all the Zooming we're doing, there's less lights on.
Hmm.
More people using their own powers and less town hall electrical use, but.
I think there was a rate increase involved in that, right, John? Or I think you said that we're.
When I looked at some of the others, the electrical wasn't up. I mean,
Yeah.
so that's why I was, I didn't thought. that this might
We
have been
were
mistaken.
under contract with a third supplier and that ended in November. And we did go over we went over by almost 900. And I did feel the need, we needed to increase that we didn't have enough money there.
Tracy?
Do you want me to go back? I found it in the minutes, what Jack was asking about.
Go ahead.
Okay,
It was actually from January 5th's minutes or meeting. It was line 75. Jack Daly makes a motion to increase the offsetting revenue to 11.5. Paul seconded. Decision made to wait until Butch finds out the answers to how the offsetting revenue can be used. Paul retracted the second. Jack retracted his motion.
Right. That was about the general fund, right?
Yeah,
It goes into the general fund.
it goes under, it goes, yes. So any excess goes to the general fund. That's standard. So, but I
The,
want,
the other,
You're talking
other-
the planning board, and those are charges for services, and those do go into the general fund.
yeah.
But there are certain engineering, like engineering, stuff like that goes into a special
Third-party
revenue
review.
fund. That is controlled by, I believe you, John, I think.
Are you
Is that right?
talking about water and sewer tap fees?
No, I'm talking about when the planning board has a meeting and they have to have an engineer,
Third-party review. That's,
third-party review, the engineering money gets put into a, what do you call it?
That's escrow.
Escrow.
That's escrow, and that's handled by the town treasurer.
town
Okay.
treasurer. Yep. So that's,
Wasn't there
Totally
also-
separate from all the rest.
yeah, and thank you for that. All fees. So whether it's permit fees, parking tickets, monies come in and John accounts for them in general ledger under the set different departments, but the monies go to the general fund. That's all that,
Yes.
that money is end up in the general fund and so it's accounted for in the general ledger by police department collects parking tickets. It shows a revenue line there, but they don't get to spend that. That money goes to the general fund.
right, I think the second half of that discussion was the amount. Is because I think we tied that in with, there's a new schedule for building permits.
Yeah,
Correct.
Dennis just
Yeah.
put in,
Dennis, I like him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dennis put in 7,500.
that's
and
correct. What a nice guy.
That was the reasoning. And it all, the whole big thing was on the growth of the town and what was coming and, you know, who was moving in and the cost of building permits. So that's why we didn't want to settle on an amount. So it's a
Right.
combination of where it went plus the
Hmm.
amount.
Yeah, and as I explained, which turns out to be true, is I and Jonas thinks the same way I do. We tend to be very conservative on our revenue estimates. It's strictly a budgeting thing. We can go higher, which Paul advocates, which is not wrong. You go higher on your revenues, and if you don't make it, you know, so be it. But it's always better, in my opinion, better at the end of the year if we estimate 5 and we show you 7. Everybody's happy. We actually exceeded. So it's a budgeting thing, and the 11.5 is fine. We just, you know, it's just a budgeting.
But I throw this out just, Butch, not to give you a hard time or anything, but can't that same philosophy apply it on the expenses side?
Well, it can, except, well, not really, because expenses are, you know, you can do like we don't, you know, we buy something, but we may not know we need it, or, you know, it's a little different. It's a little different, Mike. It really is.
Yeah.
The revenues,
Well, the only
Best-
difference between the expense side is that you're really voting on one number. And the selectmen have the authority to move within any budget
yeah,
they want.
Right, I
So
understand.
all of what we truly do is not, they can move whatever they want, with the exception of capital reserve funds. Those are specific.
Yeah.
So,
I
but within
understand,
the
yeah.
budget, they can move it wherever they want.
Right.
Hey, Mike,
Yes, Jack.
you know, the fact that in the Board of Selectmen, they recommended 5,000 in that line item, and we've already brought in 7,500 from Dennis. I mean, we have to be realists when we budget. We know it goes into the general fund, but again, we have to show revenue somewhere. So, you know, budget appropriately. And I thought that's why I made the motion to go to 11.2, because given the building boom that's going to occur in South Peak, et cetera, we will have, and the new schedule that the town has put forth, we will make that number. So, you know, again, that was my thought behind that. And I'm done.
So we can quote you in the minutes, Jack, budget appropriately?
I yield my time to the gentleman from Slopeside Slopeside Property Management.
Was that, oh, Dennis?
No,
Oh, that's Paul.
Oh, it's Paul? Oh, you're that guy with the property manager on his truck.
That's it.
You know, with the, if I can, with the Ron Beard just remind me of something. One of the reasons town hall's electric bill is probably a little higher for 2019 and probably is going to be a little higher for 2020, for 2020 and probably 21, is we literally are running circulating fans on the furnaces 24/7, moving more air through that building. They're not cycling on and off because of COVID. That slipped my mind, but that would be an additional expense. And we're doing that as we speak. The building's being circulated, so.
Oh, so that leads me into the question that I had for you, Butch. So underneath the building property maintenance, the 6,000 for town hall furnaces and AC and heating replacements and general maintenance. Are you looking to readdress some of that?
We're on a schedule. We've replaced one of those complete units. We have one more scheduled for this year, and 4 years in a row. We're changing those 6 furnaces. And actually, I think we've put in for 2 this year, are being upgraded to new. They're all worn out. So yes. So, and then the 6,000 is the routine maintenance. And if you see down the line, it says AC and heating
Yeah.
unit replacement. We got 20 grand there, 10 a piece. And there's 6 of them, and we'll be changing them all. Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. The only comment I would have, Butch, is that if there's any grant monies available due to COVID, be able to use municipal buildings to help you with your HVAC upgrades. You know, I don't know if that's available with the new round of monies or the next round, but we probably would want to look at that, I would think.
If we get CARES money again, we were allotted $42,000, and between upgrades to petitions and cleaning and stuff, we used up the 42,000 pretty quickly. We didn't get into building systems. I know some towns have changing their bathrooms to the one but
Hands-free.
hands-free flushing and all that, and air circulation and stuff. But we didn't get into that. So if there's another round of that, and Jack seems, well, somebody was confident that that's going to happen after January 20th, we certainly would look at that. Yep.
Use your foot.
One of the things, I'll mention this from the last meeting, it made me think about it. And that's sort of why I keep hanging on this, is that last meeting, when we were talking about the growth and the increase in population in town, and everybody, we said, it's like, it's growing, it's big, it's growing. And we were talking about car registrations and the labor needed for car registrations, and it's growing. But then when it came to the revenue, well, we kept it low because we're not quite sure if all that money is going to come in. So I think we're going to hear this throughout the session, is that, yes, we need increases, and we need a lot of these increases because town is growing and there's an awful lot of work going on, but it doesn't seem to carry over into the revenue that is supposedly to come in with that.
Yeah.
So yes, Jane.
I'd like to add to it, it isn't just because the town is growing, it's because a lot of the permits and fees have not been updated since the early 1900s. I think I'm being sarcastic, but $50 for a building permit for everybody just wasn't realistic. So we needed income because we had a drought, we need water, we need other things. It isn't just because of the growing of the population. Oh, people are coming in, we're going to raise their rates. That isn't why it had occurred, in my opinion.
No, I didn't. Not for the building permits, but
Right.
on the town clerk and tax collector
Oh, okay.
labor. Okay, any further discussions on executive?
Town hall.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's on town hall.
Town hall.
Town hall, yeah.
All right, well, that's our last one for this evening. Is any further discussions on anything else? No? Do I hear a motion? Herb beat me to it. Motion to adjourn. Jane seconded, or do you have a question, Jane, or you're muted?
I guess
Jane,
I'll
you're
mute myself, but on February 4th, we're having a bond hearing on the meters, and we'd like to be part here. You also have a meeting, and we'd like to be part of that, according to OJ.
Okay, let's see. First of all, Herb had a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Did we have a second? Al, second? Okay. Further discussion. Go ahead, Jane.
Okay, I'm unmuted too. That's wonderful. What I wanted to say was that we would like to be part of the bond hearing, and because we did that before, I believe with you, if the meter bond hearing on February 4th.
Yeah, and I think the board, Jane, we agreed.
Yes.
We would start that at 5 o'clock. You folks are scheduled to meet at 5:30. So we'd have a public hearing on that bond. We'd share the date. That's
At 5 o'clock, and
Yep.
you're at 5:30, so a budget's at 5:30. Just want to let you know.
Okay, so walk me through that as how we mesh together with the bond hearing.
We
Please,
start at,
go ahead, Jane.
we start at 5 and you start at 5:30. We're going to have a bond hearing regarding the meter, water meters.
All right, and then we have our public hearing after that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Jack.
are we putting the cart before the horse here? I mean, the Board of Selectmen have obviously, in the wisdom or lack thereof, indicated that we're going to put in water meters. If I remember correctly, that was taken out of the budget last year after, the budget committee made their views known. And I believe that would be under a warrant article that would have to go before the town. Am I correct on that, Butch?
that's correct, and that's why there is going to be a warrant article, and the first public hearing on that will be at 5 o'clock on February 4th.
Right.
Okay, but you said that's a bond hearing.
It is because the warrant article is going to require a bond, and you're required by statute to hold a bond hearing on that.
And,
article.
Okay.
But if I could interject, Jack, I think on January 14th meeting, we are discussing special warrant articles, which should be part of.
Correct.
So that discussion, as far as the budget committee goes, can happen on January 14th. Is that right, Mike?
Yes, it sounds right to me.
On the agenda. That's right, Paul.
Yep.
Yep.
So Jack, you'll have your day in court on January 14th.
Thursday.
Jack's had many days in court.
On the right side of the law.
Yeah, right. No. Actually, it was always facing the judge. Okay, thank you for putting that in there, Jane. And any further discussion? Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Good meeting. All in favor of adjourning the meeting, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice night. We'll see you Thursday, 5:30.